come on up. Let's.
here.
I need some people on this side too. Who's going? Oh, they want to block. Okay, that's now I get it. That is a good reason. Didn't see the backdrop. All right. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, today we're righting a wrong. Today we're doing something for homeowners that should have been done a long time ago. And it's an issue I've worked on for years, going back to my time as public advocate. I'm very proud that we're going to be able to give something back to so many hardworking homeowners all over this city who deserve a break. And with me are two of the homeowners. You'll hear from them in a moment. I want to thank Maya and Gary Elfont for joining us, who live on this block, proud owners of a home on this block for almost a decade. And, you know, they are examples of people all over this city. Love their home, love their block, love their neighborhood, do so much to make this a great city, and deserve a break. And I have to tell you, when I first learned about this issue, when I was public advocate, I thought for years and years when we paid the water bill for our home in Brooklyn, I just assumed it was all for water. I had no idea that, in fact, going all the way back to 1985, at some point, the city decided to start charging an additional fee on top of the cost of water. And when I found out a few years ago, it shocked me. And I felt there was a fundamental injustice in that, because people have a lot of burdens, a lot of challenges, a lot of things they have to pay for. But if they're paying a water bill, it should be for water and nothing else. And we said from the beginning we wanted to get to the day where we could change that. And with this budget that we're going to announce tomorrow, we are going to finally end those extra payments as part of the water bill. We're going to end what's called the rental payments. And from this day forward, your water bill will pay for one thing only: water. And that's the way it should be. Now, I have to tell you, again, I said 1985 is when this started, when this additional rental payment was included and passed on to homeowners without them even knowing it. And we believe that everyone should have a sense of what their money is going for and why it matters. Water is a precious, precious resource, obviously. This city is blessed with an extraordinary water system. And it costs a lot to keep it up, but what we get is something amazing, some of the best water anywhere in the whole country in abundant supply. And we're going to always invest to keep that going. So that's a blessing. And I can say as a homeowner, I think any other homeowner would say, it's worth spending money to get some of the best water in the country and know it's always going to be there for you and your family. But it makes no sense to spend your hard-earned money on something other than water in your water bill. Now, this action we are announcing today will save homeowners across all 5 boroughs a total of $82 million in fiscal year 16, the fiscal year we're in right now, $82 million. And then it goes up next year to a savings for all homeowners of $244 million. And the year after that, $268 million. That would have come out of the pockets of homeowners, but instead it's going to go right back to them. This is part of the executive budget, and we will be announcing further details tomorrow on this and many other important items. But we knew that this is part of an overall effort to address the needs of everyday working people all over the city, to make sure that what the city does is fair. And we knew it was important because we've heard from so many homeowners how tough it is to make ends meet and all the challenges they're facing. As many of you know, I was in Staten Island last week for a town hall meeting and obviously heard the many challenges people face and the trouble they have making their household budget stretch. One of them is with us. I want to thank Michael, who's the president of the Westerly, Michael Morell, the president of the Westerly Improvement Association, who was there at the town hall meeting. And Michael, thank you, because so many neighborhood associations, civic associations, block associations have spoken up on the needs of homeowners, and particularly on how outrageous it was that homeowners were paying an extra charge in their water bill. So you talked about that challenge, and you're one of the voices that I've heard over many years saying, let's get this right. So now we finally will. And this will mean a one-time credit of $183, and beautifully illustrated right here behind us. Thanks to our wonderful graphics people. A one-time credit of $183 on the water and sewer bill. And this will reach 664,000 homeowners in all 5 boroughs. So again, a one-time credit of $183, reaching 664,000 homeowners. And they make up over 80% of our water bill payers across the city. So the vast majority of those who pay water bills are homeowners. And that majority will be getting this rebate. We will put this proposal forward to the Water Board, and we know they're always going to carefully consider each proposal, but we're hopeful that they will embrace it. And what it would mean is a 17% savings for a typical single-family household, and Emily will go into more detail about this. 17% savings for a typical household, and then a 40% savings for 150,000 homeowners, in particular seniors. And that's very, very important to try and get some extra help to our seniors. So our goal is to create a city that everyone can live in, a city truly for everyone, and this is one of the ways that we help to achieve that agenda. Now, I mentioned at the same time how crucial it is to keep up our water system. And it really is a marvel. It doesn't get a lot of attention, but it's one of the things that makes New York City truly great. We've got over 6,000 people who work at the Department of Environmental Protection. There's scientists and there's engineers and so many talented people who do the work every day to keep our water safe and pure and to keep it flowing. And they deliver reliably over 1 billion gallons every day, correct? Over 1 billion gallons every day to 8.5 million New Yorkers. That's a stunning achievement. So there's a reason why the water keeps flowing. There's a reason why the state and federal government regard this as some of the best water anywhere. And it has to go through so many thousands of miles of tunnels and aqueducts and water mains, and it works because of the great people who work at DEP. And it costs a lot of money, and that money is worth the price. It's worth it spending for a great water system, but only for a great water system. We're going to make sure that people know from this point on, when they look at their bill, they know exactly what it goes for, and they can be proud of the fact that they are contributing to the greatest water system around and are not paying a single penny beyond that. I want to have you hear in a moment from Gary and Maya, and then I want you to hear a more detailed explanation from Commissioner Lloyd, but let me just say a few words in Spanish first. Hoy me complace anunciar nuestros planes para eliminar el pago por alquiler del agua a los dueños de viviendas de nuestra ciudad. También vamos a proponer un crédito único de $183 en la factura del agua de más de 600,000 dueños de viviendas. Además, estamos ampliando programas de ayuda, en especial para dueños de bajos ingresos y ancianos. With that, I want to turn to Maya and Gary again. Thank you for having us on your block. And I think it'd be great if you just tell people what it means to you to get this money back and what it means to you to be a homeowner here in Bay Ridge.
We are very happy to welcome the mayor to our block. As homeowners and members of the community, we understand the challenges of raising a family and the expenses of raising a family. And I think that in Bay Ridge, more than in lots of neighborhoods, there are diverse economic backgrounds, and I think that the water savings is a wonderful step to help every family here. And thank you for coming.
Thank you. Gary, you want to add? Oh, sorry. She said it all?
She said it
All
all.
right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. E-L, F as in Frank, O, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom.
And spell Maya.
Maya is M-A-I-A.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Now, great honor of presenting our DEP commissioner. She does an extraordinary job, one of the biggest and most complex agencies in all of city government, and she keeps things moving beautifully for the people of the city of New York. DEP Commissioner Emily Lloyd.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Maya and Gary, for hosting us today on this beautiful block. As DEP Commissioner, I can tell you that today is truly an historic day. For more than 30 years, DEP commissioners have sat down every spring to figure out what our rate proposal will be for the next year, trying to meet the needs of the system, also trying to keep the rates reasonable. And by the way, our water rates are slightly lower than the national average, and it's about the only thing in New York City that is lower than the national average. And every spring, we would have to figure into our math how much we would need to pay the city for the rental payment. And the way it was structured, the more we invested in the system, that was a good thing, the more we had to pay in a rental payment, which seemed unfair to us and seemed unfair as well to the mayor even before he was mayor. He had said that he was going to end the rental payment and ensure that the fees we collect from you through water and sewer bills would only be used to fund the system, and now he has done just that. Going forward, this will provide DEP with significant additional dollars to fund the city's indispensable water and wastewater systems and to help us keep rates affordable. The funds will help pay for critical capital projects, such as ongoing repairs to the Delaware Aqueduct under the Hudson River, completing work on City Water Tunnel number 3 in Brooklyn and Queens, upgrades to our wastewater treatment plants, and continued expansion of our green infrastructure program. It will also help us extend a hand to some of our more vulnerable customers. We have 2 programs that are for multifamily buildings. One is called the Multifamily Conservation Rate, and that gives multifamily buildings who install low-flow fixtures a break on their water rates. This year, we're introducing a new program, proposing it to the Water Board, for multifamily buildings as well. One that would give a rebate of $225 for every apartment in a building that committed to stay affordable in the future. In addition, we have 2 programs to help other vulnerable populations. First of all, for the 3rd year in a row, we are freezing our minimum payment for people who use less water than average, and most of these are seniors. We have frozen that rate. This will be the 4th year that it will remain the same. And then the last program, which we're very proud of, which was also introduced at the mayor's request, was one to give a $116 annual rebate to people who either qualify for the HEAP program because of income limitations or who qualify for a credit on their taxes because they are elderly or disabled. And this year we are expanding that program so it will go out to not just 52,000 customers, which was the case last year, but we're going to be able to add an additional $68,000 customers to that program.
68,000 customers.
Customers. Customers.
There we go.
I don't have a dollar. 68,000 customers. Trick question.
Yes.
Water is indispensable, as we always say. When they go to Mars, what do they look for? To see if there was water there, because without water, there couldn't have been life there. It's indispensable to all of us. And what the mayor has done today is going to help ensure 2 things. First, that we have the funding we need to operate and maintain this great water and wastewater system and to serve this great city. And second, by ensuring that water and sewer fees are dedicated just to the water and sewer system itself, it will help us keep water and sewer bills affordable for New Yorkers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now, my pleasure to introduce the Chair of the Committee on Environmental Protection in the City Council, Costa Konstantinidis. We will welcome you. Good day for your committee.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Lloyd, and thank you, Borough President Eric Adams, and my colleague, Vinnie Gentili, for stamping my passport to come to Brooklyn. I appreciate that. For too long, we've been talking about the rental payment. And I remember the bad old days when there was large increases of double digits and times where rental payments were taken without any shame. And here we had a mayor who committed as he came in to say we're going to change this paradigm. We're going to make it more affordable for our homeowners, and we're going to end this rental payment. And for Class 1 homeowners today, and a huge part of our rental payment is now gone, and for that I thank the mayor. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Because in communities, working class neighborhoods like this, and I represent Astoria, we know how important it is that our 1, 2 family, 3 family homeowners, this is your biggest investment you're ever going to make in your life. And your home is your castle, and you want to make sure that you can afford to stay in New York and afford to be able to do it. And by keeping this $183 credit for 664 homeowners, 80% of all customers, the programs on freezing the minimum payment and supporting our seniors, all these programs go a long way. So again, I want to thank the mayor, and we look forward to keeping our system funded well, and all of the great programs that the commissioner talked about, but also making New York City more affordable. So thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, the man who has the honor of representing this beautiful neighborhood, has for many years, knows it very well, and cares deeply about this issue because he's talked to me about it a bunch of times. Councilmember Vinnie Gentile.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and welcome all to my beautiful part of Brooklyn, Bay Ridge, the small town in the big city. So thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for using this site for the announcement, a great announcement, because when it comes down to it, as you've heard, this, for my constituents, the people who live here and the people who live across this city, this is a wallet issue. This really is a wallet issue. And when we talk about water rates, there's always been that feeling that they were unfair to us over the years. And to the mayor's credit, even while he was the public advocate, he's been talking about this issue and making the water rates reflect a fair rate for the water only. So he's worked on that. He's helped the seniors with their water rates, and now he's helping all homeowners with the $183 credit. So I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank the commissioner. And I think the fact that we're keeping money in our wallets is really the big issue here today. We know about water, we know about rentals, but the fact is, when it comes down to it, we're keeping money in our wallet, and affordability is a big issue in the city of New York, and this makes it more affordable. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now the man who has the joy of representing every neighborhood of Brooklyn. A true honor that is, and an honor to have him with us, the Borough President of Brooklyn, Eric Adams.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Well, I think all has been said. This problem was really a tribute to the cash flow in the pipeline of resources for family, and we're continually to fix those leaks that are preventing families for having these additional funds. $183, that's a Metro card, monthly Metro card to go to and from your place of employment. $183, that's your copay, several visits to the doctor. $183, particularly for our senior residents who are living on fixed income. It's an opportunity to provide some of those necessities that they had to do without. So this is a real bread and butter issue. For far too long, the leaking faucet of revenue for families need to be repaired one item at a time, one issue at a time, and to be retrospective and look at some of the things we have on the books that really makes no sense. How do we charge DEP rental income for using the space? By taking that money and not placing it in the city's coffers only, but going back to the homeowners who are really dealing with large water rates. I'm a homeowner, and every time I look at the water bill, I always wanted to know where all the dollar amounts went to. You should not need a PhD to figure out how much water you use and how much should go into paying for that water. So hooray to the mayor for understanding that taking those dollars away from paying rent is allowing the homeowners to be able to pay their rent, and that's the goal. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. So we're going to take questions on this topic. Then I'd like my colleagues here, everyone, and Gary, Maya, Michael, come on up, and let's take a picture next to this beautiful large check. Okay. A large check is a glorious thing, don't you think? So we're going to take questions on this first, We'll take a picture by the check, and then we'll take questions on other topics. On this, yes.
Mayor, just until a few weeks ago, this rental payment was included in the water increase. So what led to the change of heart?
That's what budget process is for. We spent a lot of time looking at the budget, and you'll hear about it in great detail tomorrow. But we had to make a lot of tough decisions. There are some areas where we had to find efficiencies, but we also believed this was a high priority and we could reach it, and that just enough time had gone by. It was time to resolve it. That's what it came down to. Yes.
So these rental payments was going to the city general operating fund. And
Okay, so I want Emily to give you the history from '85. So you go ahead. What's the other question?
Well, and I mean, these are pretty big numbers. 82 million this fiscal year, 244. So how do we make up that shortfall going forward?
Well, you tell them the history part, and then I'll talk about that.
The history is that when the city turned over to the Department of Environmental Protection the water and wastewater system for the city and set up a financing mechanism, which is the Water Finance Authority and the Water Board, they said, we've put all this money into all of this infrastructure, so you should pay us some rent for that. And that made sense, and a lot of cities have done that. But it was written with a quirky aspect to it, which was rather than paying down the debt, every time we invested more in the system and borrowed money to pay for it, we had to pay a percentage of that larger bit of debt. And so the rental payment kept going up and up and up, and we could never pay it down. So the idea has been to bring it down little by little, and then the mayor, who has been, for as long as I've known him, been saying we should get rid of the rental payment, said, no, we're just going to do it this year.
So the bottom line is it's again, budget is a series of choices. This is something I thought just wasn't fair. Even though we have to be disciplined in our budget, we could reach it this year. And my fear was if we didn't do it now, then we get into trouble later on, and people would then say, oh, let's put it off, put it off, put it off. There is a famous African proverb that says the time to fix the roof is while the sun is shining. So, we happen to have at least some resources to work with, and this was the time to fix this problem. Yes?
So in this year, getting rid of the rent payment is going to pay for this credit. In future years, how is that what is it going to be used for? Is it going to affect the rate?
So it will always affect the rate that we have this back in our budget. The mayor started returning it to us at an accelerated rate a couple of years ago, and we have been anticipating that it would get lower every year. So we have really figured going forward that we would have some additional money to put into investments and also to keep the rate down. But because he accelerated the rate at which he was giving it back, we had this one-time additional piece of money, and that was when we decided that the thing to do was, because we had so many programs for multi-unit apartments and for people, for seniors and for people of lower incomes, that it would be very nice to do something for the homeowners who are really the backbone of our customer base for the water system.
I'm going to do a follow-on question, which I think will be helpful for everyone here. But every year will be different in terms of the needs of the water system and what people have to pay, different amounts depending on what you need. Do you want to explain that?
There are several things that drive what we do. First of all, both our water and our wastewater infrastructure are quite old. So we are always trying to replace that at a steady rate. And whenever we feel we have a little more flexibility in our resources, we try to accelerate the rate. And in fact, the first year that the mayor was in office, he asked us to accelerate the rate of replacing very old water mains at about $100 million a year. The other thing that has a tremendous effect on us is mandates. The water and wastewater system are very highly regulated, and we are every year being asked by EPA, by state agencies that regulate us to do more things. And so we have to make investments. Sometimes they're operating, sometimes they're big capital investments like the Croton filtration plant or the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant. And so those, although we generally know they're coming a few years ahead of time, have to be put in the rate as well, and that goes up and down. So every year we're dealing with those things. And then now the other really big unknown for us is climate change. We have started to really pick up the pace of our investment in stormwater management because climate change seems to be accelerating. You may have seen they had 15 inches of rain in Houston last week, 4 inches in 1 hour. So we are really looking at how we can expand our stormwater management system. So between repairing what's old in a very old system, dealing with climate change, and dealing with requirements of our regulators, every year we're trying to figure out what's the highest priority for investment.
On this topic. Other questions on this topic? Wait, yes.
You talked about the bill being confusing. What exactly is the line item on the bill that would go away for customers?
What's the line item? Did it have a line item? Describe whether it was even identified.
For the rebate to property owners?
Yes, so the decision to end rental payments, is there...
It is a discretionary decision by the mayor. That is what is written into the law. So any mayor could have chosen to do this. He simply has to decide that he's not going to request it of the water system, of the water board.
So people looking at their bill, what will they see that's different?
Well, this year they will see a credit, $183 credit in their bill if they are a homeowner. After that, they will not see it broken out separately. It will be mixed in with the various things we're spending money on and the overall rate.
Let me follow on your question, see if I can help as a homeowner. I don't remember it ever being identified as a separate
It
item.
wasn't ever identified, yeah.
What we call hidden.
Right. It was never sitting there on top like a surcharge that you could see.
Imagine such a thing. On this topic, going once, going twice. Okay, to the big check, everyone.
Okay.
Here, just, yeah.
You have to Vanna White with us here. You have to point to...
I'm going to get this set up and then I will...
It's cheesy but effective. See paparazzi everywhere. These are the water paparazzi.
Oh, good?
Got it?
I think we got it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chris. If photos can just come back to the side.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Jenny? Thank you. Okay. All right. Other topics? Yes.
You also announced today $20 million for the city board of elections if they agree to certain reforms. Can you talk about why those reforms are necessary? And also, this requires approval in Albany, right? So what makes you hopeful that this can get through in Albany? I think previous mayors have tried reforms to the city.
Well, there's a couple of different pieces. There's a legislative piece in Albany, and then there's what we're talking about. We've said this is, in effect, a challenge grant. We've said that there's a lot we'd like to help the Board of Elections do, but we must see commitment to reform and modernization, or we're not going to spend the taxpayers' dollars. And let me be clear, there's some very basic expenses of running an election. We're obviously going to include those in the budget. We've got 3 more elections this year, strangely enough. But there's a lot more that I know the Board of Elections wants to do, things I think would be good things in terms of improving the work, but we need to see some guarantees before we spend the taxpayers' dollars. At the same time, I think there needs to be legislative change, and that's a separate but related piece of the equation. I think we need to professionalize the Board of Elections. Let's face it, for decades and decades, it's been a strange combination of government sanctioned but party run. And it's time for a more professional approach. And the simple, straightforward way to do that is to empower the executive director and create a more professional dynamic with, a longer set term and other features that give the executive director the ability to run things in a modern, professional manner. So that's what we'll be working for. I can't predict the reception in Albany, but I can say that people have gotten more and more frustrated. You talk to everyday people who experience the lines when they go to vote, who experience the machine breakdowns, the changes of location, the misinformation. And it's very, very frustrating, and people deserve better. The final thing I'd say is we have to then go even beyond that and do a host of things that this state has long since needed: same-day registration, early voting, vote by mail. New York State's one of the most backwards when it comes to electoral reform. So there's a lot we have to get done, but we're going to use our resources to challenge the board. Media?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, media questions. My apology. We're doing media questions. Yes, sir.
Is it accurate that Deputy Mayor Glenn's office knew about problems with the Rivington deal and didn't inform you for at least a month? And if so, will there be repercussions for that?
I don't have any reason to believe that is accurate, but again, a full investigation is going on, and when we see the whole total, then we'll speak to it. Again, no, I don't tend to think Post stories are accurate to begin with, and I don't think that one was.
Did you get written sign-off from the Conflicts of Interest Board for your involvement with the three nonprofit groups?
I'm sorry?
Did you get written sign-off or guidance from the Conflicts of Interest Board on the three nonprofit groups that have been promoted?
We can get back to you with details. Everything that I've done has been thoroughly vetted by a variety of lawyers along the way, and where we thought it was necessary to go to conflicts of interest, we did, and we've done it a number of times, but I don't want to speak to each occasion because I want to make sure we give you the exact facts. Yeah.
Mayor, on the fundraising inquiry, have you now yourself read this letter that has been out and the memo attached to it? Have you personally read it? And can you explain what's wrong about it? What isn't true about it?
I've read Mr. Laufer's letter, if that's what you mean. I haven't read the other memo I've seen, obviously, quotes from it. But I think what Mr. Laufer laid out is straightforward, that any government watchdog is supposed to be very, very careful in the work they do to follow the rules, to follow the laws, and to scrupulously be independent and nonpartisan. And I think he raised real concerns about whether that was the case here or not.
What do you say to the assertion from the state elections, I believe it's the State Board of Elections attorney, who asserts that you were trying to direct folks to circumvent campaign finance?
It's outrageous. And again, I don't know what's motivating it. I think Mr. Laufer's letter raised a number of good questions about what might be motivating it. But the facts that he lays out about the consistency in our state law and the fact that for my predecessor and so many other people live by those exact same standards, I think it speaks for itself. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, can you unequivocally say that neither you nor any member of your team has violated campaign finance laws?
I can unequivocally say that.
Mayor, do you think there's an attempt to criminalize fundraising and campaign donations?
Well, let's separate the pieces here a little. In this instance, again, I think there's an obvious question mark around that memo that was leaked to the press, and real questions about motivation, and obviously huge questions about accuracy in terms of the law. So whatever's motivating that particular act is one thing. I think on the bigger question of how we finance elections, and I spoke about this a couple of times in the last few weeks, what we need, I think, is an entirely different system. I think we should abandon the Citizens United decision of the Supreme Court. I think we should go to full public financing of elections. But until we do that, there's a set of rules and a set of laws that everyone is governed by and everyone needs to respect and play by. But they're not good rules or laws. Citizens United is one of the worst decisions in the history of the Supreme Court. And I think in fact, it's quite clear from public polling, the vast majority of Americans agree with that. Unfortunately, it's the law of the land right now. So that's what we deal with. Marcia.
Mr. Mayor, do you think that there was a political motivation in leaking this memo to the press?
I am quite certain that all of you will get to the truth about that. I'm quite certain that you will be able to uncover whatever motivations may have existed. But we can say this. A government officer is supposed to honor their responsibilities. And first of all, that should never have been put into the public domain. And second of all, when you look at how inconsistent it is with state law, it begs the question, what was the underlying motivation? But I have confidence that all of you will get to the bottom of it.
The letter that your lawyer, Mr. Laufer, wrote said that there was an apparent political motivation. I wonder if you subscribe to that.
I'm going to say it very simply. I think it's important that the facts be found in this case. A lot of very good people are having their names dragged through the mud over these last few weeks. A lot of people that I respect greatly and have worked with for years. That's not right. That's not fair. We've made very clear we welcome a full airing of the facts. I want all the facts out there because I'm quite convinced the facts will show that everything was done legally and appropriately. But when you see something done in this kind of fashion, when you see an inappropriate leak, when you see the law being misconstrued in such an obvious fashion, of course it begs the question of motivation. But I'll leave it to all of you to uncover, I should say, those motivations. Thanks, everyone.